Hello, this is Chuck Stevens, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the July 29th issue of the Democrat Chronicle here on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Latest in rankings, you are among the top 50 U.S. colleges. 4 colleges and universities in New York ranked among the nation's top 50 in the latest U.S. News & World Report Best Colleges Rankings of 2026. The list includes 2 Ivy League schools, Cornell University and Columbia University, along with New York University and the University of Rochester among the nation's top national universities. The United States Military Academy at West Point also ranked among the country's top liberal arts colleges. According to U.S. News, New York has more 4-year degree-granting colleges and universities than any other state. Most operate within the State University of New York, the SUNY system, and the City University of New York, the CUNY systems, 2 of the nation's largest public university systems. Here's how New York schools ranked. To qualify as a national university, a school must offer a broad range of undergraduate majors along with master's and doctoral programs while emphasizing faculty research or award-winning professional practice doctrines, according to U.S. News. The top-ranked national universities in New York are Cornell University at number 12, Columbia University at number 15, New York University at number 32, the U of R at number 46, Stony Brook at number 59, and Rensselaer Polytech Institute at number 64. Binghamton University tied for number 73, Syracuse University tied for number 75. Also tied at 75, the University at Buffalo. Yeshiva University, number 84, liberal arts colleges in New York. U.S. News defines national liberal arts colleges as institutions that focus primarily on undergraduate education and award at least half of their degrees in the arts and sciences. New York's highest-ranked liberal arts colleges are the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, tied for number 10. Barnard College, tied for number 13. Hamilton College, tied for number 13. Vassar College, tied for number 13. Colgate University, tied for number 22. Skidmore College, tied for number 37. Union College, number 44. St. Lawrence University, tied for number 58. Bard College tied for number 70. Hobart and William Smith Colleges tied for number 73. U.S. News evaluated national universities using a range of academic and student outcome measures, including graduation and first-year retention rates, graduation performance, Pell Grant student graduation rates and performance, first-generation student graduation rates and performance, and graduate earnings compared with high school graduates. Student borrowing, peer assessment, financial resources, per student and standardized test scores, faculty salaries, full-time faculty, student-to-faculty ratio, and research impact, including citations and publication quality. National liberal arts colleges were evaluated using the same methodology, except first-generation graduation measures were not included on rate performance. Our next story from the front page of the DNC Economic Discontent. When Ashton Reed voted for President Donald Trump in 2024, he was drawn by Trump's vow to recharge the economy and curb the inflation that many around his hometown of Jackson, Missouri, blamed on then-President Joe Biden. Reed, age 22, who has worked at an auto equipment factory and heating and air conditioning company, has since seen prices rise and a war in Iran of the kind Trump promised to avoid. He also has been uneasy about Trump's immigration enforcement tactics. A few months ago, Reed priced an Affordable Care Act health insurance plan for his wife and discovered it was too expensive after Trump and congressional Republicans allowed pandemic-era subsidies to expire. More recently, Reed, who does not have a 4-year college degree, was laid off from his heating, ventilating, and air conditioning job. A huge chunk of why I voted for him in 2024 was because of economics, Reed said of Trump, obviously not happy with him at all. Since Trump first ran for president a decade ago, white working class and rural voters have been an important base of support, drawn to his vows to bring back manufacturing and crack down on immigration. In 2024, 2 in 3 white working class voters backed him, according to the nonprofit Public Religion Research Institute post-election survey. Trump won 69% of the rural vote in 2024, according to Pew Research Center exit polling. But polling over recent months has shown rising disapproval from those groups, reaching majorities in some polls, especially on the economy, fueling a potential new vulnerability for Republicans heading into elections that will determine control of Congress. A CBS News New York Gov poll in May found 54% of white, non-college educated voters disapproved of Trump's performance, up from 32% in February of 2025. That disapproval hit 49% in June with an NPR PBS Marist poll and 51% in April with a Fox News poll. Among rural voters, a June Reuters Ipsos poll found 48% disapproved of Trump, up from 34% the month after he returned to office. The decline is significant given that white working-class voters were a pretty stable support between 2016 and 2020 for Trump, after trending Republican since the early 1990s, said Noam Lapou, a Vanderbilt University political science professor. The main driver of discontent is higher prices for necessities like gas and food, pushed up by the Iran war and tariffs, experts said. White House spokesman Kush Desale said gas prices and inflation will drop once the Iran conflict resolves, and the Treasury Department recently sought to highlight how families have benefited from tax cuts. Although Trump won't be on the November ballot, growing disapproval could bleed into the GOP's midterm fortunes. Reid, who no longer supports the MAGA movement for a variety of reasons, said plenty of people in his largely conservative part of Missouri, just west of the Mississippi River, still do. But Reid predicted he won't be the only former Trump voter who is going to possibly vote for a Democrat for the first time in their lives in the midterms. It's typical that a president's party loses congressional seats in midterm elections. During Trump's first term, the GOP lost 41 House seats, but retained the Senate. But in 2018, working-class white voters still approved of Trump's economic management by margins of 30 percentage points. A New York Times analyst of polling found recently polls have shown them disapproving by anywhere from 14 to more than 30 points. To be sure, disapproval from former Trump voters does not mean they will necessarily cross party lines, especially because the Democratic brand has suffered in some rural and heavily white working-class regions, such as Appalachia, in recent decades. In Hazard, Kentucky, a small town tucked into the Appalachian region, where coal once reigned supreme, resident Denver Feltner also had high hopes when he voted for Trump's return. The 38-year-old father of 5 who works 2 jobs, as a public safety dispatcher and a process server for court papers, felt Trump had shepherded the economy well in his first term before the COVID-19 pandemic, and he believed he could do it again. Not anymore, he said in July. Instead of costs of living decreasing, Feltner's grocery bills have spiked, and his health insurance premiums went up 4-fold after the ACA's enhanced premium tax credits expired in 2025, leaving Feltner to go without for months despite a history of health problems. A Fox News April poll found that 38% of white non-college educated respondents approved of Trump's handling of inflation. I was pretty good under his first term, but it's completely different, he said. Feltner lives in Perry County, which is part of an eastern Kentucky region with high rates of poverty and chronic disease. About 44% of residents in the region's congressional district relied on Medicaid in 2024, according to Kentucky Center for Economic Policy. Medicaid rolls are expected to drop because of Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, which is projected to cut nearly $1 trillion from Medicaid and a related children's health program and leave millions nationally without coverage. Those without four-year degrees aren't all in traditional blue-collar jobs and can include anyone from well-paid skilled tradespeople and small business owners to a typically low-paid healthcare worker or retail worker. Some are also in more traditional fields like mining and manufacturing. Trump's tariffs were meant in part to fuel a manufacturing revival. While there have been new investments in some industries, those efforts take a long time to come to fruition or be noticed by voters, said Heath Brown, a professor of public policy at John Jay College in New York. Overall, manufacturing jobs have seen a slight decline since Trump took office. Some auto companies have scaled back or shelved electric vehicle projects as the administration rolled back Biden-era support and environmental regulation. In June, the Trump administration announced a nearly $700 million plan to boost coal-fired power plants and coal exports, which came after those exports fell in 2025 amid tariff battles with China. In Feltner's part of Appalachia, many coal unions and residents historically backed Democrats as the party of the working class. Over time, the region has evolved into a deep red Republican stronghold. This fall, the region's Republican representative, Hal Rogers, who has served in Congress since 1981, is being challenged by an attorney running as a Democrat who has highlighted Medicaid cuts. It's widely viewed as an uphill campaign. Rogers ran uncontested in 2024 and beat a Democratic challenger in 2022 with an 82% of the vote. Feltner, who plans to vote in the midterms, said he never was a party line voter. He hasn't looked into candidates' policies yet, he said, but affordable health care is a high priority. Whichever candidate is wanting to try and fix the medical situation, he will likely get my vote, he said. In rural southwestern Minnesota, Bob Worth farms 1,700 acres of soybeans and corn on the Lincoln County farm that he took over from his father straight out of high school. It's a rewarding life, but it's a very tough financial life, the 73-year-old man said, noting he is accustomed to ups and downs. That includes struggles with prices and costs during the Biden administration that helped fuel his vote for Trump in 2024. In 2025, U.S. soybean growers were hit hard by disputes over Trump's tariffs that halted important sales to China, which began buying soybeans from South America. Since then, China has agreed to buy a certain amount of U.S. soybeans each year through 2028, which he said had helped. But Worth, who has served in various roles on the Minnesota Soybean Growers Association, said low prices for crops and high costs for fuel and fertilizer, which have been driven up by the war in Iran, have combined to create ongoing challenges. Worth said he's lucky to have little debt, but that's not the case for many younger farmers. Our cash flows right now are in the red, he said. Tim Slack, a professor of sociology at Louisiana State University who studies rural America, said higher fuel prices especially hurt rural farmers because people drive longer distances for jobs, schools and groceries, and farms rely on trucks and equipment. In other parts of the country, Trump's immigration crackdown has at times made it harder for farmers and milk producers to get enough farm labor. Farm bankruptcies increased 46% in 2025 from a year earlier, according to the Farm Bureau. The Fox News poll from April found that 69% of white rural voters said the economy was getting worse. But Trump supporters have long given the president leeway. Worth, who said he's voted for candidates of different stripes, believes that the Iran war was worthwhile to keep the regime from developing nuclear weapons. I'm thinking he's going in the right direction. We won't know until we get a little bit further in it. I still have hope and faith in him to get it done. He's a businessman. He's not a politician, he said. The decline is significant given the White House working-class voters were a pretty stable support between 2016 and 2020 for Trump after trending Republicans since the early 1900s. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from the Democrat Chronicle here on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. How to listen to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, lots of ways. Our most popular seems to be on our free mobile app. Download it at your Apple or Google Play Store with easy access to the Listen live stream and all the recorded podcasts. Next up, from the D&C, Monroe County officials are proposing an animal abuse registry to promote public safety and to protect animals. County Executive Adam Bello, President Versha Rahman, and legislators Jackie Smith, Michael Udelson, Sean McCabe, and Paul Dorndorfer signed a memorandum calling on the legislature to consider enacting the law. In the memorandum, county leaders described how animal cruelty continues to be a serious problem each year. They also found that individuals who abuse animals are statistically more likely to commit violent acts against humans. The proposed registry would identify individuals residing in Monroe County convicted of animal abuse crimes that prevent them from adopting or purchasing pets. A person's name, address, date of birth, and a photograph will be included on the registry. Individuals who have committed crimes such as poisoning, stealing, abandoning, or torturing an animal will be required to register. They will remain on the Animal Abuse Registry for 10 years following their release date or the date their judgment of eviction was made, whichever is later. Those who are required to register will have to pay an annual fee of $50 to the Monroe County Sheriff, which will be used to pay administrative and maintenance costs. If an animal abuse offender fails to register, they would be guilty of a misdemeanor and could face penalties, including up to 1 year in jail and fines of up to $1,000 for each day of noncompliance. The proposal comes after the Ontario County Board of Supervisors approved an annual abuse registry on July 16th. The New York State Humane Society shows that slightly more than half of the state's 62 counties have such laws. Our next story from the D&C, groundbreaking postponed for a $24 million culinary arts center in Canandaigua because of the rain and further threat of inclement weather. Ontario County officials have postponed a ceremonial groundbreaking on the $24 million Culinary Arts Center of Excellence in Canandaigua. The groundbreaking on this ambitious project was originally scheduled for Tuesday morning, but with significant rain and possible storms in the weather forecast, the county and its project partners decided to reschedule the outdoor ceremony rather than proceed under unfavorable conditions. In a statement released early Monday evening, county officials stated the county has been preparing diligently for this exciting project and does not want the inclement weather to detract from such an important milestone. The county and its partners remain fully committed to the project, and the new date will be shared as soon as arrangements are finalized. The center will be built on roughly 2.5 acres of property adjacent to Pinnacle North and across Lakeshore Drive from the city of Canandaigua's Kershaw Park. The intent is to create a year-round destination for culinary education in the heart of the Finger Lakes. The project is funded by the State University of New York, the Sands Family Foundation, the Canandaigua Area Development Corporation, and other project stakeholders. Work is expected to be done in late summer of 2027. The project will house the Finger Lakes Community College Culinary Arts Program and the New York Kitchen under one roof, along with programming offices for Cornell Cooperative Extension of Ontario County. As part of the move, the existing New York Kitchen facility on South Main Street in Canandaigua is to be sold. The combined facility will house shared demonstration and kitchen teaching operations, as well as public space, according to county officials. New York Kitchen will operate retail and tasting spaces for New York products. A restaurant is not part of the plan. A portion of the property may be used for a city park. From the food and drink section, Cozy Neighborhood Bar in Rochester, named one of the best in the U.S. The building was once home to Jack Ryan's, a divey Irish bar that some affectionately dubbed a grumpy old man's bar. Today, the 2-year-old Jack's Extra Fancy pays tribute to that legacy and adds a cheeky spirit to the idea of a neighborhood bar. Now the cozy watering hole has made national news. USA Today has named the Rochester Bar one of the 38 USA Today Bars of the Year for 2026. We're so fortunate to be situated in one of the most vibrant neighborhoods in Rochester, said co-owner Eric Rosenstratton. Providing a fun, welcoming third place for our community has always been our goal at Jack's. However, to be known as not only one of the best bars in the city, but perhaps one of the best in the country, it's truly an unbelievable honor. Well, what makes Jack's Extra Fancy stand out? The vibe at Jack's Extra Fancy is playful and lighthearted, inside and out. The building is painted yellow and accented with Kelly green Jack the Toys kind. An outdoor patio is ringed with flower planters. The yellow and green motif continues inside the cozy establishment. One room has a long, narrow bar with weathered wood floors, while the other has tables and a modern 60s vibe. Throughout the space is an eclectic assortment of kitschy, ranging from vintage memorabilia to tiki to curious taxidermy. Start chatting with the staff and they'll regale you with the stories behind each item. The place is the vision of Eric Rosenstratton, a design consultant who has instilled personality into several trendy Rochester area establishments, including two of his own. The other is Easy Sailor, an equally inventive tiki bar on Rochester's Park Avenue. So what to order at Jack's Extra Fancy when you stop in? Well, how about a cocktail? Jack's Extra Fancy has a wildly creative cocktail menu that changes at least twice a year. You really can't go wrong. Pick one that strikes your fancy. Jenny on the side pole, local Genesee beer is served from a Luker tap, which is traditionally used for Czech and European pilsners. It aerates the beer differently, giving it the best head you'll find on a Jenny and a bit of a creamier texture. A Malort and a Utica Club. This affordable beer and a shot combo is memorable only at Jack's Experience. Utica Club, which is made a couple of hours east of Rochester, is notably historically for having been the first beer sold legally in the U.S. after Prohibition ended. But generally people love it because it's cheap and it's old school. The Malort, suffice it to say, that the Chicago-based liqueur is an acquired taste. To me, it's the perfect Rust Belt shot, Rosenstratton said. You're going to hate it, but you're also going to love it. A smash burger. Well, the menu for its scratch-made bar fare changes twice a year, and there are fun specials for nearly every food holiday. There's always a stellar smash burger, craggy edges and all, topped with kosher pickles, caramelized onions, Dijon mayo, and cheddar cheese. They can be ordered extra fancy with egg, bone butter, and thick-cut house-smoked bacon. But honestly, that's gilding the lily. Chicken riggies, the iconic Italian-American spicy pasta dish that hails down the thruway from Utica, is made from homemade pasta from the pasta shop located a few blocks away. What's nice is that you can order the dish in 3 levels of heat. Fun to know, there's a secret neighborhood watch menu that you can see only with a black light. Ask your bartender for the light. Good to know, reservations are accepted. Happy hour deals are offered from 3 to 5 weekdays, and it's open for every Bills game. And what's nice to know, there are fundraisers, including a special cocktail for a different local charity each month. Since the bar opened in January 2024, it's raised more than $25,000 for charity. Next up, best and worst New York cities for renters. So where does New York City, Rochester, and Buffalo rank? Despite New York City ranking as the least affordable housing market, the city ranked in the middle for best to worst places to rent in America, according to a WalletHub study. As almost 16 million Americans rent rather than purchase their homes out of convenience, cost, or availability, WalletHub analyzed 182 rental markets based on 21 key measures, such as rental rates and rental affordability, to determine the best and worst rental markets across the country. In the best cities for renters, rent can cost you as little as around 15% of your income. You'll also have access to robust laws that protect renters, such as limiting deposits to only a month or two of rent, WalletHub analyst Chip Lupo said. Here's what to know about New York's affordability. New York City ranked number 106 in the middle for best to worst places to rent, earning a total score of 47.02, presenting a notably tough score due to its rental environment and quality of life compared to other cities. It ranked number 121 for rental market and affordability and number 96 for quality of life. Among other New York cities evaluated in the study, at number 116, Rochester earned a total score of 46.22, ranking at number 111. Number 126, Yonkers, earned a total score of 45.08, ranking at number 158 for rental market and affordability. Number 157, Buffalo, earned a total score of 42.82, is sitting near the bottom of the state's rankings at number 156 for quality of life. The top 10 best cities for renters in the country: number 1 is Scottsdale, Arizona. Number 2, Gilbert, Arizona. Number 3, Chandler, Arizona. Number 4, Overland Park, Kansas. Number 5, Columbia, Maryland. Number 6, Peoria, Arizona. Number 7, Huntsville, Alabama. Bismarck, North Dakota at 8. Sioux Falls, South Dakota at 9. Amarillo, Texas at 10. The 10 worst cities for renters: at number 173, Shreveport, Louisiana. Number 174, Huntington, West Virginia. Number 175, Augusta, Georgia. Number 176, New Orleans, Louisiana. Number 177, Newark, New Jersey. Number 178, Akron, Ohio. Number 179, Memphis, Tennessee. Number 180, Jackson, Mississippi. Number 181, Cleveland, Ohio. And number 182, Detroit, Michigan. WalletHub found that many of the top rental markets are in the Southwest and Midwest, whereas coastal areas often face higher costs. WalletHub compared 182 cities across 2 categories: rental market and affordability, and quality of life. The rankings based on 21 metrics, including rental affordability, vacancy rates, sublet laws, square footage, newer homes, insurance premiums, cost of living, safety, crime, job markets, traffic, recreation, weather, and school systems. Cities receive scores on a 100-point scale, with higher scores indicating more favorable conditions for renter households. The data used in this study was collected on June 9th, 2026, from sources including the U.S. Census Bureau, Council for Community and Economic Research, Zillow, Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from the Democrat Chronicle on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. How to listen to us? Well, lots of ways. An easy way: listen to our live stream on our website, nfradioreading.org. Traffic note: I-390 lane closures begin for overnight paving in Monroe County. The New York State Department of Transportation will be running overnight lane reductions along I-390 in Brighton, Gates, Chili, and Rochester. To accommodate a paving project, portions of I-390 North will be reduced to 1 lane. Drivers can expect closures from exit 16 near State Route 15 and 15A, East Henrietta Road, West Henrietta Road, and East River Road to exit 19 near State Route 33A and Chili Avenue. Some on and off ramps near the construction site will be closed to traffic. Drivers can follow detours posted near the site. Paving will take place nightly from 6 p.m. until 7 a.m. and is expected to be complete by the end of October. Drivers should anticipate travel delays during this time and are advised to seek alternate routes if necessary. Construction activities are weather dependent and subject to change based on conditions. Well, it's been a very heavy summer when it comes to rain, and 7 New York State beaches are closed after heavy rain with harmful algae blooms. 7 beaches at New York State parks are closed, 2 for harmful algae blooms and the other due to heavy rainfall, according to State Department of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. 2 other state park swimming beaches are operating under advisories for high bacteria levels. New York State has nearly 70 state-owned swimming beaches, which are all regularly tested for bacterial levels of impaired water quality and to determine the public's risk of coming into contact with waterborne diseases, according to state officials. The New York State Department of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation tracks and updates the findings from weekly testing and provides updates on whether beaches are open, closed, or under advisory. Test results are available about 24 hours after samples are taken. Here's what to know about the closed beaches. So which ones are closed for swimming? Well, Long Point State Park on Lake Chautauqua in Chautauqua County closed for harmful algae bloom, last tested July 24th. Verona Beach State Park on Oneida Lake in Oneida County closed due to harmful algae bloom, last tested July 28th. Robert H. Tremaine State Park in Tompkins County closed due to heavy rainfall, last tested July 28th. Buttermilk Falls State Park in Thompson County closed due to heavy rainfall, last tested July 28th. Allegheny State Park in Cattaraugus County, the park's two swimming beaches, Red House and Quaker area, are both closed due to heavy rainfall. They were last tested July 28th. Stony Brook State Park in Steuben County closed due to heavy rainfall, last tested July 28th. Note that the 8-foot deep swimming hole at Stony Brook is closed this season due to flooding damage. The 1.5 deep waiting area is operating this season, but is temporarily closed. More lists: which New York Park beaches are under advisories. Shenango Valley State Park in Broome County opened with advisory due to high bacteria levels, last tested July 27th. Wellesley Island State Park in Jefferson County opened with advisory due to high bacteria levels, last tested July 27th. So what sparks a beach closure in New York state parks? State officials close beaches within state parks when there is a known or anticipated risk to public health or safety. Whenever this occurs, signs are posted and the public notified 18 to 24 hours after an elevated concentration of bacteria occurs. The causes of elevated bacteria levels are not always clear. They may be related to land uses in the watershed, stormwater runoff, naturally occurring sand or soil bacteria, or other factors. Closure decisions are based upon monitoring results in combination with other factors that influence water quality, including water conditions, including sewage overflows, cold temperatures, or high waves, environmental conditions including thunderstorms, heavy rain, strong winds, and historical data. What bacteria does New York test for? Freshwater samples are analyzed for E. coli, and ocean samples are tested for Enterococcus. A freshwater sample result equal to or above 235 E. coli colonies, 100 milliliters, exceeds the state standard. This applies to all regions of the Empire State except Long Island. The ocean sample result equal to or above 104 Enterococci colonies per 100 milliliters exceeds the state standard. This applies only to the Long Island region. How does New York classify beach closures after testing? Beach closures are placed in one of two categories. Category 1 beaches. These beaches can remain open with an advisory. Water at the beach will be resampled, and if sample exceeds the state standards a second time, the beach closes. Category 2 beaches, the beach is automatically closed until a satisfactory sample is received. The most common reasons for beach closures in New York, common reasons for them include exceedance, bacterial indicator levels exceed the state standard, predicted exceedance, a model based on environmental conditions predicts the water quality is poor, predicted exceedance, rainfall, because of recent heavy rain, it's predicted that water quality is poor, high waves or rough conditions, turbidity, cloudy water that could prevent lifeguards from being able to see swimmers, no lifeguard, when lifeguards are not available, beaches are closed, closed for the end of the season, the beach closed for the season, cold water, temperatures below 50 degrees. Next up, Exhibitors at Spencerport Canal Days Festival receive awards. The 44th Annual Spencerport Canal Day Festival took place Saturday, July 25th and Sunday, July 26th. The event featured local vendors, live music, and activities for guests of all ages. Over 90 vendors participated in the festival. Arts and crafts exhibitions displayed their work throughout Spencerport Fireman's Field and South Union Street. Of these exhibitors, 3 won awards. The Best in Show winner went to Sarah Alward, Bella Bean Pet Accessories. First runner-up, Laura Chilson, the local Flora. Second runner-up, Gail F. Johnson, Gail's Art Painting Pastels. Attendees had the chance to buy tickets to participate in the annual Canalligator Race, entering canalligators or mini rubber alligators in a race in the Erie Canal. Festival goers with the first 18 and last 19 canalligators to cross the finish line had the opportunity to win prizes. The first prize was a $500 gift card to Tops Friendly Market in Spencerport, and other prizes included tickets to the Strong National Museum of Play and tickets to a Rochester Americans home game. The proceeds from the race tickets will be donated to organizations and programs in the Spencerport community. Festival guests could sign up for 90-minute canal cruises from Rochester by water and listen to a variety of local bands throughout the weekend. Families could work on arts and crafts in the Spencerport Rotary's Children's Tent, while adults could go to the Canal Days Tasting Tent, which featured local wineries and breweries. Our next story, Rochester Gas and Electric can't predict Stamp's impact on electric bills. RG&E cannot determine the future impact of the Genesee County Data Center on ratepayers, the utility company said in a letter to the Monroe County Legislature. RG&E clarified in the letter, in a response from a letter sent by 4 Democratic Monroe County legislators, that none of the upgrades planned for the data center would affect the resources or workforce for planned improvements to the grid in Monroe County, including upgrades in Henrietta and Penfield. They are separate and independent projects, said Patricia Nielsen, RG&E CEO, in a letter. RG&E told Monroe County lawmakers that infrastructure costs tied to the Western New York Science, Technology, and Advanced Manufacturing Park would not be borne by ratepayers, but that it cannot determine what effect large electricity users could have on future supply costs. The project's electrical demand could reach 500 megawatts, making it one of the largest power users in the region. Critics argue that adding a round-the-clock load of that size could have consequences for the broader electric system and eventually influence electricity prices. The costs of the upgrades at Stamp will be funded by the Genesee County Economic Development Center, including Fast New York funds to complete the substation the data center would use. As companies locate at Stamp, they would be required to pay their share of the cost of the substation based on their usage, according to Mark Massey, President and CEO of GCEDC. GCEDC is also entering into a maintenance agreement which covers the capacitor bank installed as part of the substation upgrade. The cost of constructing, operating, and maintaining the equipment associated with the upgrades will not be borne by RG&E ratepayers, Nielsen said. Supply prices are established through competitive wholesale markets administered by the NYISO, and RG&E does not control, set, or profit from the supply portion of customers' bills, Nielsen said in a letter. One of the state's major utilities confirms the data center could impact our electric bills, and that's a big deal and a big red flag, said Monroe County legislator Rachel Barnhart in a statement. In 2026 Power Trends report, the state grid operator said the number of large load proposals, like data centers, are rising at a time when reliability margins have tightened. Facilities running around the clock will affect local peaks and traditional load patterns. This includes a projected shift to electric use peaking in the winter instead of the summer in conjunction with continued electrification. Demand is a significant factor in rising utility bills in New York, which the NYISO identified as long-term pressure last October. While it identified increased electrification as one reason, it also mentioned the rapid expansion of semiconductor manufacturing and new data centers as the cause of a surge in electricity demand in the future, specifically identifying the Stream U.S. data center project at Stamp. Surging demand from electrification and data center growth drives up prices and prompts calls for accelerated investment in new resources, the NYISO blog post said. In news from Orleans County, a stabbing and domestic dispute leaves man seriously injured. A man was seriously injured after being stabbed during a domestic dispute at a Carlton residence over the weekend, according to the Orleans County Sheriff's Office. Deputies were called to a home in Carlton shortly after 11:40 p.m. Saturday, July 24th, after receiving a report that someone had suffered severe lacerations during a domestic dispute, Sheriff Christopher Bork said. When deputies arrived, they found a man suffering from what officials described as life-threatening blood loss. Deputies applied tourniquets and provided emergency medical care until emergency medical techs could arrive. The injured man, who was not identified, was taken to Strong Memorial for treatment. Officials said Monday that his injuries were serious, but his condition was stable. Alyssa M. Kane, 34 of Lindenville, was accused of stabbing the man with a sharp instrument during the incident, deputies said. The stabbing allegedly occurred in front of a child, according to the sheriff's office. Kane was charged with first-degree assault, a felony, second-degree menacing, fourth-degree criminal possession of a weapon, endangering the welfare of a child. She was arraigned and is being held in the Orleans County Jail, pending further court proceedings. In a sports note, Syracuse's beloved Otto, finalist for the USA Today's 10 Best Mascot Awards. Otto the Orange is among the 20 finalists to be named the best college mascot by USA Today. The popular Syracuse University mascot is one of 20 finalists for the nation's best college mascot in the 2026 USA Today 10 Best Reader's Choice Awards. The awards highlight the very best in travel, food and drink, and lifestyle. Every week, USA Today 10 Best invites a panel of industry experts to nominate their favorite points of interest and attractions across a wide range of categories. So Otto the Orange, Otto first appeared on the sidelines in the early 80s and became Syracuse University's official mascot in 1995. Otto, wearing his signature blue ball cap, was inducted into the Mascot Hall of Fame in 2023. According to university officials, Otto's spirit and joy are infectious, and part of why Otto is beloved by Orange faithful everywhere. Otto, they said, is instantly recognizable and brings smiles to faces everywhere. Well, if you want to vote and you want to support Otto, vote in favor of another college mascot. Voting is open through noon Monday, August 17th. The top 10 will be announced on Wednesday, August 26th. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from the Democrat Chronicle on the Niagara Frontier radio reading service. How to listen to us? Well, content is available on demand at all major podcast platforms like Apple Music and Spotify. Oman presents Iran with Hormuz plan. Includes voluntary fees to use the strait, the sources say. Oman has presented Iran with a plan backed by Gulf states to manage the Strait of Hormuz, including collecting voluntary fees for using it, a Gulf source and a Western diplomat told Reuters on July 28th. The plan could serve as a basis to end the disruption to trade through the strait caused by the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. President Donald Trump, who abruptly called off a 2-week U.S. bombing campaign over the weekend in his latest strategic U-turn, said there were good talks underway with Iran, but threatened to restart strikes unless negotiations deliver. Iran denies seeking to resume talks with the United States. Washington launched its renewed bombing campaign earlier in July to break Iran's grip on the strait, through which about a fifth of global oil and liquefied natural gas flowed before the war. Iran effectively shut the strait to ships other than its own after the United States and Israel attacked on February 28th. A deal in June between the United States and Iran partially reopened it, but the agreement collapsed in early July after Iran fired on ships using a channel it does not approve. Iran has said it wants to manage the strait alongside Oman, which controls the opposite shore, and charge service fees to ships that use it. Washington wants to return to the strait's status quo prior to the war, when ships were able to pass freely with no payments, and says charging mandatory fees would be illegal. Under the Oman proposal, Iran would not exercise sole control and fees would be voluntary, the Gulf source and Western diplomat briefed on the matter told Reuters. The system will be analogous to one in place on Asia's Strait of Malacca, where Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore ask ships to pay voluntary contributions to fund navigation, environmental protection, and search and rescue operations. The Western diplomat compared it to a voluntary carbon tax for flights where anyone buying a plane ticket can choose to tick a box if they want to pay to offset their emissions. Gulf Cooperation Council foreign ministers met via video call on July 28th to discuss the latest developments in the conflict, including ways to intensify cooperation on issues related to freedom and safety of vessels through the waterway, a statement from the Qatari Foreign Ministry said. Iran's Joint Military Command again rejected a plan put forward by Trump for damages to vessels to be paid from frozen Iranian assets, state media reported. It said that any country or company that accepted such payments would be denied passage through the Strait of Hormuz by Iran's armed forces. Trump called off his latest campaign of airstrikes after receiving advice from military commanders that the strategy had run its course. The 13 nights of renewed U.S. bombing killed scores in Iran and destroyed bridges and tunnels across the south as well as military targets. Iran had responded with attacks on U.S. bases in neighboring countries that killed 4 service members and strikes on civil infrastructure in Gulf states that it said were in response to U.S. strikes on civilian targets. Iran has said it would hold fire as long as Washington does, but drone attacks were reported in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and northern Iran on July 27th, and Jordan reported another drone being downed on July 28th. In an interview with Fox News on July 28th, Trump said the United States was in a strong position right now. He reiterated he was prepared to strike more Iranian targets, but said he would prefer to avoid doing so. I think about 91 million people without power, without bridges, would have to live, and it's a very, very delicate balance. So I think we have a very strong position right now. They know I'm going to do that if they don't make a deal. Trump has repeated a threat to potentially target Iran's Pickaxe Mountain, a fortified facility buried deep underground near one of Tehran's main nuclear sites, saying if we don't make a deal, we'll take it out very easily. Iran has executed 2 men for their role in nationwide protests in January, state media reported on July 28th. Among a series of death sentences that rights groups say have been handed out since the start of the war with the United States. Abulfazl Safaya Bajami and Amarasan Safari Husseinabaldi were accused of taking part in the killing of 4 security force members in Alakani Square in Isfahan on January 8th, the judiciary news outlet Mizan said. The nationwide anti-government protests were repressed in the biggest crackdown in the history of the Islamic Republic, during which security forces killed thousands of protesters. Since then, more pressure has piled onto Iran over 5 months of war that the authorities in Tehran view as existential. A panel of United Nations experts said in a press release on July 27th, before the latest executions were announced, that at least 24 people have been executed for offenses tied to the January protests. At least 12 of these convicted of involvement in the Al-Khani Square case have been sentenced to death, the UN experts said. Two of them, Irfan Exafandar and Mohammadi, were executed July 19th. The UN experts said that 12 had been sentenced to death in a single hearing, in a closed courtroom and without clarity as to each defendant's individual responsibility, which the experts said violated standards for fair trials. Human Rights Watch recently said that at least 50 people have been executed on what it called vague national security charges over the past 4 months. Iran's permanent mission in Geneva did not immediately respond to a Reuters request for comment. Tehran has previously denied accusations of abuses against prisoners. Iranian authorities have throughout the war warned against any resumption of anti-government unrest, while proclaiming that the nation is united behind the Islamic Republic. In other war-related news, the Pentagon adds 4 troops killed in war to a new list. 4 military service members who died in the Iran war have been listed in a category on the Pentagon's defense casualty website, other than the one that has been used for deaths in the war thus far. The new category, titled Overseas Operations, appeared on the Defense Casualty Analysis System days after the 4 service members' names were initially removed from the list of military casualties in Operation Epic Fury. 18 U.S. service members have died in the Iran war, according to data from the Pentagon. However, just 14 of them were listed under Operation Epic Fury as of July 27th. The additional 4 Army troops, Lieutenant Tyler Feehan, Private Isabella Gonzalez, Sergeant Angel Rampersad, and Sergeant Michael Swinton, were listed under casualties in Operation Epic Fury as of July 22nd, when President Donald Trump honored them in a dignified transfer. Feehan, Gonzalez, and Rampersad died in a July 17th attack on the Mafwaq Salti Air Base in Jordan. Swinton was killed during a controlled detonation of a downed Iranian drone in northern Iraq, the Pentagon said. The overseas operation list also includes a tally of 207 people wounded, though it's unclear whether this refers to people wounded in the Iranian war. USA Today has reached out to the Pentagon for comment. By July 24th, the 4 service members' names were no longer included in the data. The Pentagon said at the time it was fixing the issue, but by July 27th, the names were restored on the website under the new category, rather than being included under the existing list for casualties in the Iran war. Well, the calendar's a little different this year, and that means August SSI payment comes a day early and in July. Supplemental Security Income, SSI, recipients will not receive a payment during August 2026, but there's no need for alarm. Because August 1st falls on a Saturday, the Social Security Administration issued August SSI payment 1 day early on Friday, July 31st. That means beneficiaries received their August benefit before the month began. Here's what to know about the August SSI and Social Security payments. So why isn't there an SSI payment in August? Well, SSI recipients will not receive a payment during August because the month's benefit was paid early on July 31st. Under SSA policy, when the first day of the month falls on a weekend or federal holiday, SSI payments are issued on the preceding business day. The same scheduling adjustment will happen 2 more times before the end of 2026. While SSI recipients won't receive another payment in August, regular Social Security retirement beneficiaries will receive their checks and direct deposits on normal schedule. According to the Social Security Administration's 2026 payment calendar, Monday, August 3rd, people who began receiving benefits before May of 1997. Wednesday, August 12th, birth dates between the 1st and 10th. Wednesday, August 19th, birth dates between the 11th and 20th. And Wednesday, August 26th, birth dates between the 21st and 31st. Many SSI recipients also receive Social Security benefits, so they may still receive a Social Security payment in August, even though no SSI payment is scheduled. So what is SSI? It's Supplemental Security Income, providing monthly financial assistance to people who are age 65 or older, are blind, have a qualifying disability, and meet strict income and asset limits. Adults generally must earn less than $2,019 per month in wages to qualify. Although many recipients receive both SSI and Social Security, the two programs are funded separately and follow different payment schedules. Remaining SSI payment dates for 2026 include Tuesday, September 1st will be the September payment, Thursday, October 1st, the October payment, Friday, October 30th will be the November payment, Thursday, December 1st, the December payment, Thursday, December 31st, the January 2027 payment. More from the Democrat Chronicle. Eggs linked to a salmonella outbreak. A salmonella outbreak linked to nearly 1.6 million dozens of recalled eggs has sickened at least 98 people and hospitalized 26 across 17 states, according to the Food and Drug Administration. Investigators say evidence points to eggs produced by Midwest Poultry Services as a likely source of the outbreak. The FDA findings, released July 24th, came 2 days after the company issued the egg recall because of potential salmonella contamination. According to the FDA and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, illnesses have been reported in Arizona, California, Colorado, Georgia, Illinois, Louisiana, Michigan, Missouri, Mississippi, North Carolina, New Mexico, Nevada, New York, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, and West Virginia. Midwest Poultry Services identified the issue through environmental monitoring practices and root cause analysis, according to the recall report. The company was not distributing fresh eggs from its Texas farms as of July 22nd. The FDA said tracing efforts identified Midwest Poultry Services as a common egg source. In addition, samples the company collected tested positive for salmonella, and whole genome sequencing found some samples matched the outbreak strain. The company shared results with the FDA on July 22nd. The recall covers white shell eggs and brown cage-free shell eggs produced between June 6 and July 3rd, with sell-by or best-by dates from July 20th through August 17th. The eggs were sold under the Country Morning, Cal-Maine Sunups, Brookshires, Simple Truth, and Kroger brand names in packages ranging from 6 to 60 eggs. Consumers should look for identifying code P-1950 or 0840962 and a number between 157 and 184 printed on the side of the carton. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the July 29th issue of the Democrat Chronicle. Your reader has been Chuck Stevens. As always, thank you for listening.